Warm greetings. Welcome to today's session of Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water. This session is conducted with the support of Water Resources Council of the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and in collaboration with W4W Foundation and media partner Counterview. My name is Mansi Bal Bhargav and currently I am holding the position of National President of the Wiki Water Resource Council and I'm also the founder director of the W4W Foundation. Today in this session, we are here to listen and know more about Madhuri Mandava and Khushbu Birawat from Paani Earth. Madhuri has an MSc in Electrical Engineering from Pennsylvania State University, and interestingly, she's has some good U-turns and other turns which we are going to learn from her when we are conversing. So I'm not going to elaborate on her beautiful resume with that she holds, but importantly, her newly acquired geospatial and Google Earth Engine skills have been invaluable in mapping and analyzing water resources, which is we are going to talk about it briefly, but I just want to mention it here again that in this kind of conversations, we are focusing more on Madhuri, the woman in water. And she is one of the founding members of Paani. So we would also learn a little bit about what Paani does, how she is maneuvering around it. Our second speaker today is Khushbu Birawat, who is an environmental engineer with over 5 years of experience in academia, specializing in teaching subjects hydrology, waste management, water and waste treatment, and more, including GIS. So she's currently pursuing her PhD. So that also gives us a very good, range of both the speakers today. And Khushbu is also a researcher and curator at Paani. So I think today's session is going to be quite interesting. While we learn about these two girls, we also learn in the process more about Paani. So welcome to Monday Munching and Musing, both of you, Madhuri and Khushbu. And I'm super excited to really talk about it. And I have to see how do we do a good conversation both around Paani and I will say two beautiful angels. Let me start this conversation with a very simple question to both of you. Uh, Maybe to both of you, take it one by one. How did you really start your journey in water, or when was it that you realized that you belong here? Can you share something about it? Maybe we take Madhuri first and then Khushbu in all our questions. Okay, over to you, Madhuri. And welcome again. Thanks for giving us time.
Yeah, thank you actually for giving us this opportunity. Thank you again. So my journey with water, I would say it started off way back in 2003, actually. Until then, it was like, I would look at rivers, lakes um, as something that you just, appreciate, observe, but
Yes.
never actually saw the interconnections with how it's connected to me in my day-to-day thing and how my day-to-day activities impact it actually. So as you may have read about it, that I came across this book called Affluenza. Until then, I had an
Yes.
out of sight, out of mind existence actually.
Mhm.
And US kind of enables that. So you can consume as much as you want and it's taken out of your sight. So you never see the connection between that. And so that was the beginning. And when we return back to Bangalore, I think waste is in your sight. There's nothing out of sight
Yes.
actually.
You
And
know.
I'm very grateful for actually, because that's something that has helped me start looking at things. So my journey first started with my own personal this thing where I started looking at how, I mean, the choices that I make in my day-to-day life, how does that impact, how does that relate to the waste that I see on the street? So it
Mhm.
started in 2003 where um, I was just beginning to look at few changes. It accelerated when I had my first child in 2004. I think children bring something, I mean, it instills a sense of responsibility in you. I think at least I observed that. So uh, that that consciousness, I mean, I think, that whole journey was accelerated after I had my firstborn, second one in 2009. So I was following waste, and waste ends up in a water. right? I mean, so
Yes, all waste ends up in water bodies,
so in
unfortunately.
fact, I do recall that I used to feel so good about recycling actually, and
Mm-hmm.
I think, oh, that's the best thing. I can consume as much as I want, as long as I recycle, reuse, and recycle, and we are awesome with that. And when I moved into this community, which is in the outskirts of Bangalore, we would often smell this burning plastic, and we would wonder what it was. When we actually went and surveyed, these are informal recyclers who are handling, there's a stat saying that they handle close to 80 to 90% of our recycled,
Yes,
so-called recycled waste, right? And what you see is that, they're employing very crude methods because that's all they're equipped with.
yes,
And
yes.
they take away the valuable waste, and the rest all ends up in the river. And that's something that kind of again was one more learning thing where till date, I try not generate too much e-waste, but everything is sitting in my house actually, because I know what happens when you actually say you recycle it, because it
Yes.
does end up in our water bodies. So I think my journey with water started then, where I said I need to do something about it, because as I learn more, I see that that is not just for the survival of human beings, but the whole ecosystem, whether it's the other beings that are there, which is the elephants or the tigers or the little, the otter, which is in the Kaveri River here. So everyone is dependent on that, and we are dependent on them,
Yes.
each of
We
us. So
often forget that.
yeah, so I think that's so there's every day there's a deepening that's happening with what I learn, what I know about, how I'm connected with it. So yeah, so it's an ongoing journey.
Yes, I'm sure it is ongoing, and we are going to learn a little bit more about it further. Khushbu?
Hello, hi everyone, good evening. So, to answer your question, Dr. Mansi, I think I'll have to go back to my education. So, I was in my final year of engineering in biotechnology. So, I was all seeing about microorganisms, and for my final year project, I took up dyeing effluents, the dyeing industry effluents, and I was seeing all the colors. There's orange and there's pink color, and just next year here in Pina industrial area, we collected the samples.
Mm-hmm.
And from my microbiome lab, I had to go to environmental lab, engineering lab.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when got to know about, okay, environmental engineering existed. This is what people learned about the effluents which are coming out of the industries. This is how soil is polluted in Pina industrial area, because that time there was a case of where the groundwater was yellow in color in Pina in Bangalore.
Uh-huh.
So because of hexavalent chromium. So then I made a transition from biotech for my master's in environmental engineering. And like Madhuri, my journey with environment started with waste, because in Bangalore you can see waste everywhere. And
Yes.
because it's in the site, I started working on solid waste management, did an internship with an NGO here, Sahas. And
Mm.
for my PhD is when I got acquainted with a professor from Global Academy, and he was working on water resources. So we jointly wanted to understand the lakes of Bangalore, because I was like, okay,
Yes.
we have so many lakes in the Bangalore in this city, and why is it all polluted? Because waste ends up in the lakes. So why there is all
Yes.
solid waste, construction, demolition waste near these lakes, and beautiful spaces we do have, but
Mm-hmm.
what I could see was only waste everywhere. And then that transition of waste ends up in the water bodies in lakes of Bangalore, and then they end up in the Rishabhavati river, and then it joins to Kaveri, from where Bangalore gets water again. So for me, this journey has been more for the love of the city. I don't know, something about Bangalore attracts me with all its negatives. So I just wanted to understand more about the lakes of Bangalore, and that's when I connected with Nirmala, the other co-founder of Paani.earth,
Yes.
and trying to understand the data available to actually understand the problems with the lakes of Bangalore and the Vrishabhavati River. And recently, very recently, I made the transition from an academician to full-time researcher with Pani, getting to know
Nice.
about water. So yeah, I'm at that stage.
Interesting. Interesting. So maybe it's a good time to get a very brief overview of your current engagements, both of you. So that way we also get to know what Pani does. And then we move on to, questions on you people as women in water, because that's the whole session about. So current engagements, maybe both of you take turn or one of you, I leave it to you people.
Yeah. So, Khushbu, can I go first?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, so I work full time on Paani.earth, and it's it's a self-funded organization that is, I mean, like, Nirmala, my other co-founder, loves to say that it's our own philanthropic initiative of
Yes.
trying to fund this thing. So we work full time on it. In fact, we have to kind of tell ourselves not to work on weekends sometimes. So we do take a Sunday
Very
break.
much like us, huh? That W for W.
Yeah,
We are
because it's
working.
like the more you go, the more it happens. So there are no particular roles that we have in Pani.earth.
Mhm.
There is
Mm.
some admin role when you have an organization that we need to do,
Yes,
like
of course.
tax and all of that, which we just manage ourselves with the help of chartered accountant. But otherwise, we are like jack of all trades. We learn. I mean, I can answer for even Khushbu that it's like putting, like reading through a paper, which is a scientific paper that's been released, and trying to see what insights can we gather. So we wear the hat of trying to analyze that. Then learning GIS. So it's basically anything that we need to understand what's ailing our rivers. So we
Mhm.
don't have anything saying this is my job profile. So that's the same that holds for, even I can speak for Kushbu also, saying that we may have a certain skill set, but that doesn't stop us from picking up a new skill.
New
So
skills.
few of us, so three co-founders of Paani.earth initially. Dr. Nidhi Paliwal was also there, and now she's kind of, with other priorities, had to take a break. So Nirmala and I, and with now Khushbu, the three of us, we do what is needed. So it's like applying for RTIs, right to information, sitting with the government officer, trying to get data about it, going and meeting farmers on the thing to understand the thing, or surveys to anything. In fact, Kushbu
Mm.
is trying to learn how to fly drones now so that we can survey things better. So yeah, so this is what is our activity actually.
If I extract from it, it is basically the urge to understand why our water bodies are ailing and what can we do about it. How can we as citizens or people who are concerned can do about it. Wonderful. Khushbu, do you have anything to add, or I move on to my next
Yeah,
question?
I think Madhuri told it in one sentence: "Jack of all trades to understand what's ailing our rivers."
And trust me, I can understand it very, very well. Where how the way we are running W for W is no different. It's like a 24/7, but it is very close to heart and contending work, with no complaints. We just
Yes.
do it because we
Absolutely.
believe that we have to do it. That's the only thing. Nobody's asking us to do, but we just do it. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that. Very, very good. So maybe I would like to understand from each of you as independent individuals the kind of tasks, activities that have been difficult, one, or that have been very, very enjoying, or I do not wish to use the word rewarding because there is a room for misinterpretation, but some things which are, um, enjoying, or you like to do it, or even for that matter, challenging, which you like to do it. So, how does your day usually look like with these things? I know every day is with ups and downs and goods and bads, but maybe something to learn about, to know you better. Which kind of work really intrigues you, or I mean, when you get really off, what kind of situations? Over to you.
Yeah. Kushbu, do you want to take this first or?
No, Madhu, you
Yeah.
take it first. So because we'll follow that pattern what Dr. Mansi laid it before.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
it's just an informal rule, yeah. So we can just
yeah.
fluid.
Yeah. So, the one thing that's the most challenging for me in this space, right, is how to keep the hope going about, that one day I
Nailed
can
it. Nailed it.
actually see this thing. So what happens is, like for example, when there was a survey where we had gone and seen this like the entire road filled with markers and plastic pieces on the road, and it's this recycling place. And you see the workers actually working in bad conditions. You don't see what is the resolution here right away. And
Hmm.
when I actually walk back with that kind of sadness into the house with two young boys, and how do you actually show them hope? I think that's the biggest challenge for me, actually, to constantly revitalize yourself and say that yes, all hope is not lost, but there are moments when you actually fall, just hit that low. And
Hmm.
that's the biggest challenge that I find, actually.
I can imagine. And some things which you have been very, very satisfying or contending, maybe you can relate it with some incidents, and that is a little bit stories, and it makes the conversation very rich. Madhuri, do you want to add something like this?
Yes.
Or
So, I mean, I think the one satisfying, I mean, so this hitting a low, right, is always added with another thing. So we caught a tanker once, which
uh,
was a chemical filled tanker at night, 12 o'clock in the night, when it was dumping the untreated effluents into the river. And we got to know about the toxicity of it much later. So I it's like it's a high point, because I think the first time when we could actually engage with the government officer, although we see the sadness of seeing the state of affairs, but to be at it and actually try to file an FIR, and get to the other side is something which I felt really good about. The other thing is when I see the river in monsoons. There's a thing where Nirmala and I just sat and we were like, this is how the ecosystem can be, and we just sat there. We forgot, I mean, we sat there for 10-15 minutes. We were actually supposed to survey the river at several points. And we said, no, let's just sit here. And that was, I mean, those are some moments which are just something that I thoroughly enjoy. The other biggest thing that I feel is, I always wondered, why did I do electrical engineering? Because when I got exposed to other things, I'd be like, oh God, why did I mean, that's why I quit my job also, because I didn't find any desire to continue, except for the if I had the financial thing. And thankfully, I could say that no, I don't care about this. I can follow my passion. And today, when I apply the same analytical skills to learn GIS or to analyze something, I feel so happy, actually, saying that I know now
yes, so
why I have actually become an engineer. And the way I can look at things is something that I have acquired as a skill. And I feel so
yes.
good about those moments, actually.
Very nice. I mean, no education is going to be waste. We can always find a way to work on it. Interesting. And something which you talked about as challenging, it comes to me also very often from youth as well. One thing is to keep the hope alive with the community we work with, but also another thing is to keep ourselves motivated. That if we are not hopeful and motivated, how are we going to sit tomorrow on the same desk and go to the same water body? So
Yes.
good. I just hear from Khushbu, and then Khushbu, and then move on to maybe next question. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think my day to day just looks like in a week, I would say, going out on the field, surveying a few points, and then desktop analysis a lot, seeing that buffer a lot on the GIS portals which I work on, and actually discussions with Nirmala and Madhuri about what they think about the issues, and more of absorption and learning, and then reading more about it to connect, okay, this makes sense and this doesn't make sense. And so my day to day is more of research, writing, analyzing. Analysis, more of analysis is what I do, and I just get lost into those moments or hours sometimes. So
Oh,
that
I
is about
love the
my
way
day.
you say just get lost, because that's the best thing you can do with your learning, huh? Because if you have answers to everything, if we had, we would have solved the world problems. So,
So
that's a good sign of PhD. So let me ask you, what is your PhD about?
Uh, so, uh, uh, in Bangalore lakes, especially, you would have heard that they have disappeared. So there were some thousands of lakes, and Now there are hardly a few hundreds. And what I wanted, the missing piece was the quality, water quality of these lakes, and there was no continuous water quality monitoring data set I could find for it. So I monitored for over 4 seasons the water quality of all these lakes in Bangalore, and I'm sitting on that data set trying to analyze it. So that's why PhD
Good.
is not ending. So
No,
yeah,
a PhD is beginning, by the way, to get
yeah,
to learn to get into the mess and just continuously just sit over it, and
yeah.
things will over your on your head. Good, good. I
Water
mean, I'm
quality.
always excited to hear from PhD scholars, to be honest. Yes, Khushbu?
So water quality is one aspect of it, and then we do receive in Bangalore a good amount of rainfall, but it's all lost in urban floods. So
Yes,
lakes were the sponges of the city, which has been destroyed over the years because of urbanization. So we have invited urban flooding as well as eutrophied lakes and a lot of issues inside Bangalore, and still we are pumping from Kaveri water. So all this
yes.
complex, Bangalore is very complex in its water security terms. So just I wanted to understand it, and I mean that is the starting of my PhD work. Now I am in like third, fourth year of my PhD, uh, trying to at least assimilate and understand what data I have and put it out for public there. So I want all it to be open. So uh, data for citizens to ask the right questions. And I hope this PhD work helps at least Bangalore people, because we have a very uh, active citizenry in terms of lake conservation in Bangalore. So I
Yes.
hope that this data helps them out. So that's
Wonderful,
it.
wonderful. I bring you another question, a little bit more on the personal side, where I mean, because it's more of discussion on you being woman in the water sector, because water sector requires a lot of community engagement, field engagement, and all. Um, how do you really see that you are balancing your personal and professional life? And I know Madhuri already mentioned that it's 24/7 at Paani, but then we also have our being woman side at home, and there are other family members. How do you see and what kind of how do you prioritize your needs for on a daily basis, maybe a little bit more on that, the balance between work and work. Both are work but different nature of work. Yes,
Yeah, so I think, as you had rightly put out, right, that so we don't see Pani, I don't see Pani dot Earth's work, Pani Earth work as work, right? I can't separate between, I mean, it's life that's happening.
yes,
And in life, there is the certain responsibilities that I have as a woman in the house, and
yes,
the things that I want to take care of. It is. I would say I'm fortunate because there's a lot of support system at home, actually.
yes.
My husband and I have my 89-year-old mother-in-law who stays with me, who initially grappled with the thing about, why would I want to sit in a police station for 8 hours? And I actually got COVID during
Yes.
that time. That was the second phase of COVID thing, and it was very difficult for her to understand, that why is it that I care about some few thousand liters of chemical effluent being dumped into the river. Why does
And
it?
the lake which does not come to our house. So why is she going
So
out and running
why is
around?
it, that's of such concern? And so I think that enabled a lot of conversation. So I feel that communication is something that
Mm.
helps you balance these things well, because trying to do everything. So if you come walk into my house, there are days when you look and say, why is this so messy? I mean, you find it like that, but it's like, you don't try to do every, like I don't try to say that I'm going to do this today. So if there's a field trip, right? At home, it's going to be simple dal chawal, or if the kids want something else, they figure it out. I wouldn't try to play a role like, the superwoman, which I cannot be. So I that took me some time. Initially, I would try to be that superwoman, and then took me some
Do
time.
everything perfect.
So I had to like communicate, my this thing, or even why am I even feeling low? which does happen when you actually go and
Yes,
see somebody.
very often. Yes,
And to help that, and communication is the key for me. I felt that to
yes.
bring in the balance
Mm.
between what we want to put in as, to bring in this river, Pani river information system, to take it to completion over the next few years. There are going to be some sacrifices that need to be made, but I've realized that communication is the key to not be present where there's an expectation that you need to be present, but communicated about it. And I found, I'm thankful that I have that kind of understanding support system around me. So that's how I've been able to manage, actually. Just
So
leave
between
things for
two
them to
works.
leave things for them to figure it out and just head out when I have to
Yeah.
go out. And in fact, I wanted to share a funny thing that when we were trying to catch this tanker, right? I was part of this community where I had asked, we all were following it and we could smell it in the night. This really toxic smell. We had asked everybody, saying, hey, if you have a big group, then we won't get like, one person attacked. Let's see if we can go there. And we planned to go at 12 p.m. because 12 a.m. because it was happening in the night and we had a messenger for us who
Mm.
was giving us information, this local security guard. And by 11:45, there was only two people in the group. Everybody else left the WhatsApp group that was created temporarily. They said, "Oh, we can't come, we can't do this. I think this is this thing." And then I wake up my husband and say, "You need to come with me now." And he actually came along. And it was like, thankfully with masks and all that we went to try to call the police then, so that the tanker actually is captured and taken to the police station, because otherwise it'll just go away. We can never do the sample analysis. So my husband just says that you just come like and take me as the last resort there. If everybody else leaves you, you just pull me and make me an activist, standby activist always.
Well, but this is the least, I think, support we can, vouch for at home. I can relate it with all my travels. I am traveling here and there, but at home, everything gets haywire with it because others have to adjust around it. Khushbu?
Yeah.
Uh, I think I got married 2.5 years ago, and there was a huge transition in my life.
Yeah.
And just a second.
We already see the transition, so that's interesting.
To inform that I'm in a meeting. Yeah.
Very good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So moving out at my place, we are a joint family, so I never understood the household responsibilities because mother, if not mother, aunts were there, and it was all sharing and taking care. Only when I got married, I understood actually what all transpires in a woman's life from morning to night and with working life. So I have a wonderful supporting husband and wonderful supporting in-laws, and the daily cooking or taking care of things, I'm not yet doing that, so I can devote more time to my career and my life, phd work still. So that is one thing. And before, I took a US trip recently in July, and that is where when I saw that people actually take off on Saturday Sunday compulsorily, and before that my life was all continuously 24 by 7 work. So my sister taught me, you have to take a break on weekends and then work. I tried to implement it when I came back to work, but I couldn't because continuously it's in my head running. Okay, what next? What I have to do and all.
Yes.
I consciously try to take a break on Sunday to remain productive Monday to Saturday. So that is how I try to work, and I hope it will work for a long term, because I'm thinking to be able to work for more years, I have to give myself those resting breaks and not try to do everything perfectly. Like Madhuri says, just ship out the work at home or at work, just complete them. I'm not
Yeah,
sitting
and
on
do
them.
little bit one at a time. So a little bit at a time because there's no day when we can sleep well and say that everything was completed today. So I think that
Absolutely.
acceptance itself eases out lot of burden from the head. Wonderful. Let us move on to some questions on leadership from here. My next question is more related to the fact that in Wiki Water Resource Council, as well as through Monday Munching and with Women, we are really looking at celebrating women leadership, where we want to acknowledge and appreciate the contribution professional women make. Because often the discussion on water and women is focused around the vulnerability aspect of it, not really the leadership side of it. And which is where I feel that we are marginalized in a way, because if you look at research grants, if you look at positions, if you look at leadership for that matter, it's like a margin, we are minority. So I just want to understand from you if you agree that there aren't many women leaders who are at the forefront. And by that, I don't really limit itself to only political leadership or highest position, but yes, inclusive of it. But what is your take on why don't we have too many women leaders in the water sector? And why are they are not enough acknowledged and appreciated for the work? And when the literature I read is more on the rural side of, there are a lot of Jal Biradari, water leaders. And that again goes to the vulnerability side of it. And rural areas, women leaders are definitely identified and acknowledged. But when it comes to professional women, I mean, there is nothing much like, leadership. Do you realize this or agree with it? And if yes, why? If no, why? What is your take on it? Madhuri?
You're on mute.
Yeah, so Dr. Mansi, actually, I was just wondering that um, with water organizations itself, right? Organizations that are working on water, um, uh, we do see that, like Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. I have never seen a woman, I think, in the chairman
Yeah,
position, actually.
chairman. Chairperson. That also is
Chairperson,
a problem. Then
right?
we have chairman.
And in fact, I remember like when I used to go and actually try and find out about the river, this was like 10 years back, they would say, "Did you cook and come? Why are you
Ah,
here?" Yeah, actually, that kind of,
that's like,
remarks.
did you do your homework
Yeah, because
before
that's
coming
your
to professional work?
actual responsibility. Why are you
Yeah.
here? Kind of a question.
Uh,
So I would
Do
say,
you think that these are ways of men intimidating us? Because I find it quite
yes,
intimidating way
yes.
of,
Yes, it is. It is basically to discourage, right? To say
yeah.
that this is not the space for you. You should not be doing it. So I would, I think leadership wise, yes, you're right. That we don't find as many women leaders, like impactful leaders, actually. And water space itself, I feel, is like, not created where there's not one organization, right? Actually, when you look at government organizations, and with organizations like ours, which are like, not for profits, you do see women in that space, but
Yes,
there's no recognition for
that's what my point is. Actually,
there's no
acknowledging and
recognition for that.
appreciating their effort. Much
Yes,
of the appreciation goes into the rural sector, and I categorize them as the vulnerability point of view, appreciating them, yeah, which is fine, which is fine. I mean, absolutely fine.
yeah, I do
Do
see
you
the
think we
gap.
have I mean, the men in our country have some kind of resistance to learned women and that to vocal women?
Yes, yes.
Because it's
I,
not only water sector, you are right that women leadership is lacking in every sector. Even if I see that we have only one woman chief minister at this point in time, then there are barely any ministers if I really go that top, and hardly any vice chancellors who are women in the country. Very few, handful actually, not barely into double digits. But then if we then filter it to water sector, the number becomes much lesser. But you rightly mentioned there are many organizations where women are taking up their independent steps, and their recognition is a question mark. And we all belong to that zone, actually, that space. Khushbu, do you have any people who are inspiring you? Of course, with your Paani team, but otherwise, what is your observation about women leadership in the water sector?
Mm, I I agree actually at some level. No, I agree with you. The point which you made that you don't see any women leaders and those. But a very critical point which I have faced myself is working in this field altogether as an environmental engineer or water
Mhm.
resources field, which is a very niche field. Girls
Yes.
coming into this field or going on surveys, it's like I'm
Mm.
going out on field survey. I don't think many families would support females of their houses going out on field and being okay with it. That is the
Mm.
first hindrance which I observe. Second is,
Mm.
uh, what I have seen is women hardly work after they are married or at least have conceived like
Yeah,
their
there is
first
an issue
child.
from women's side as well. Well put. Yes.
Yeah, that is because I mean they are told like they have to be at house, give in their entire time to the kid and all those things. There might be a several of reasons, but after a certain level, say 24, 25, the women in the working force itself are very less, and them to be in the niche of water and environment, which is more of field work from safety point of view, as well as the role of the caretaker of the house, puts in a lot of barriers, like I don't know, a lot of barriers to get into this field and navigate and go ahead. Also financially, um, this so IT BT going to office, sit and work there is more encouraged than being on the field. Even more economically, this doesn't seem like putting their time in the time for the right amount, right money, right? So yeah, I think a lot of barriers at a lower level stops women, and then
And
reaching
any
high
it's
is like,
pyramidal.
yeah.
Leadership is pyramidal, so that
Yes.
of
We have to
course keeps
stick in for a
reducing.
very long time to get there. Yeah.
You have to really be a nagging person probably to just stick around and just
Yeah.
keep doing what we are good at doing. That's the only way probably. But
Oh,
having said,
just
go ahead, please.
yeah, just one more point to this. Nagging around with the society or sticking with the society, more than that, it's convincing oneself to keep saying that what
Absolutely.
you're doing is correct, stay the course, and do your thing without even trying to prove yourself to others, just
Yes.
to prove to yourself. I think
Yes.
that is what girls my age or women, at least my generation, I can feel in urbanites, we can try to do this and stick to it. Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, there are many good examples about it, and that's why we are having this discussion because this is a serious discussion and it is both ways. Women also have to be really taking it up more seriously. Because personally, I feel there is a step further uh, than being a professional and professional with the leadership skills or, being leader in the professional zone because we have many professionals, although that number is also very less because the world standard says 1 in 5 is a woman in water. And that we are talking about the professional space. Then in this pyramidal situation of leadership, if there we are already 1 in 5, there is a huge chance that we are going to be lesser when it comes to leadership. And then all these issues, and Madhuri gave a very classic example of her visit to government offices when people are going to tell her, and nobody may be doing it intentionally, but it is just that it comes natural to them. And I think we are learning out of it how to deal with these situations. I'm sure you are also, and you will learn over time. But when I talked about leadership, you all will also reckon that leadership is genderless quality. It is neutral, it is gender neutral, and it should be gender neutral, which also means that there are certain skills which a professional has to uphold to to rise to the leadership or to be seen as leadership among the fraternity, among your colleagues or in the society. So what kind of skills do you see that in a leader whom you may consider, oh, he or she is a good leader? And and that's why I'm convinced about the person. So anything which you think makes a leader a good leader or a better leader, some skill sets which you think are required. Over to you.
Hmm. I mean, I would say a leader is somebody, that is just like I'm doing this, no matter what, right? So somebody who is very transparent and honest in
Mm.
saying that yes, this seems like a block, but let's get through it. Not a macho. That's not what I'm looking at actually as a leader, saying, oh, nothing can bother me, but to be vulnerable and accept, and communicate with whoever's they're working with or whoever is looking up to them, but be able to instill that confidence, saying, no matter what, I will be on this course. I think that's so. I would say that, like for example, Khushbu is a very inspiring. Like I would look up, because I feel that it's not about just authority. It's like
Yes.
every one of us has a certain kind of a leadership quality that inspires each other. And so I feel that I would look for a skill where, that no matter what, I will actually be on this course. And that's how we inspire each other, actually, Nirmala and I and
Sticking
Khushbu.
around. That's the sticking around with
The
your
sticking
values
around
and
is something that I look for in a leader.
okay, wonderful. Khushbu?
So I think for me, a good leader or a leader is someone we have decided upon a goal, and that leader sticks to that goal, breaks out the plan for everyone, and takes them through the journey with them. So if we say something is not working out, then we plan a plan B and then still go on that journey. So someone like a partner to your
Mm.
journey. I think leader. I would describe a leader to be the path may change, but the goal remains, and someone who is okay to change their paths also to reach the final goal with their team, their entire team. So just don't leave out people.
Yeah, interesting. So it's more like not a person who dictates, but a person who accommodates and everyone and moves on. Wonderful. So, if we are looking at that kind of skills as leadership, and we also realize that there are not many women in in the water leadership sector, uh, how do you think we people like you and many other NGOs, we know there are wonderful women who are working around, that we can really bring more impactful differences in what we are doing, and also make sure that we are not only seen as vulnerable women, or we are not only seen as very dabang or leader, a leader kind of woman, but yet we continue doing that, as I was using the word nagging, but and you use the word sticking around with your goals and doing it. What do you think we should be taking on additional responsibilities and taking risks for that matter to bring more impact in the society? Or do you think that we are what we are doing, we continue with that, and we are hopeful about bringing change slowly? Your take on this?
So I would say, Dr. Mansi, that actually I was looking at all the old women talks that you had done. I feel these kind of platforms should be created more and more, where there is a lot of sharing that happens
Yes,
between these different organizations, doing different kinds of, you have different kinds of goals and sectors in the water sector itself, but in
yes,
different sectors, and doing different things. I feel creating a platform where we can share
yes.
with each other. So I would say that each of us have the responsibility to reach out and network more and connect and learn from each other, so that we can all become more impactful. Because what one
Wonderful.
person can do, and when 10 people come together and support each other's causes by learning
Yes,
about it, actually. Because I may believe that I want to do a river basin platform information system, somebody must be working on a farmer group, but if we
yes.
all can support each other's causes, I think, we will have more impact. Women for women,
Yes,
actually.
absolutely. And support are in many ways, I mean, even I have seen that you people have applied for the Wiki Water Resource Council members. I'm soon we are going to come up with the new list of council members. And this is based on sisterhood concept. The least we can do is at least get a pat on your back saying that, oh, you are doing good work, we are there for you. At least we can give a short clap whenever it is required. And of course, there are collaboration possibilities. And these platforms will let us know who is doing what. You know, then we can fill the gap that I need someone and you need someone. Let us come together and find a third person or fourth person whom we know in our network. So networks do make a huge difference, and that is actually also my question related to it. But let me hear from Khushbu what she has to say, and then I bring the question of platform network.
So, what I think about so one is I agree with Madhuri that we need such more sharing and more like a group of women standing for each other, helping out, and things like that. Other than that, incentivizing these activities or
Yes.
bringing in a structure to incentivize these actions. I think that would attract more attention than just making it only philanthropy. So,
Yeah. Interesting. So I do understand from both of you that you do give importance to the role of networks and platforms. So my question to you related to that is one thing, Khushbu, you already mentioned that incentivizing some kind of in structures or bringing some activities, and Madhuri also mentioned that we can explore collaborations and all. Coming to the tangibility of utilizing these networks, I would like to know from both of you, because you are going to now join the Wiki Water Resource Council, and after we are done with the round of interaction with our current and future council members, we are actually already doing few activities with the council members and more related to leadership skill. Because we are already considering you all as leaders, knowing that you know your sector well, there are few little things which are required, and rest we are also going to do little bit from our end. So what kind of activities you think that council should really take up in terms of tangible activities now where you may benefit out of it? Few you already mentioned, and what kind of activities you think you can offer to the council? And when I'm asking this question, in both the questions I mean more towards enhancing the leadership skills in us as well as in the other council members. So, what is your, suggestion to the Water Resource Council and any platform for that matter which works on women leadership?
Hmm. So I don't know if my answer will be very specific to leadership, but I would say, how can I enable, the other groups that are part of the Wiki Council is one thing that Pani can do, like, me and Khushbu and Nibla can do is share, like empower them with the same skill set that we learned on our own.
Wonderful.
So that
Yeah.
that's something that, because we do see that informing yourself is the first step towards conservation,
Yes.
and representation of that in space and time, which is what we call a map
Yes.
infographics, right? And that
Yes.
skill set is something that we would like to share. I mean, I'm taking that liberty, Khushbu,
yes, yes,
that, where
absolutely.
we would like to enable other groups, where a lot of things are said and done, where we can actually bring it onto spatial representation, the stories, right? So that it becomes
Yes.
one thing where you can actually see and maybe realize saying, oh, actually, I work downstream, but there's a group working upstream, which I didn't know about.
Mm.
It could be that, it could enable that kind of connection. So I would say we can facilitate that. About learning from others, we feel, that even their little successes that they have on ground with
Mm.
community engagement, with how community driven any kind of an initiative, the success of it. I think those sharing circles will be really nice, so that we can always replicate that, across India in different spaces by understanding the nuances. So it really
Mm.
helps to hear from them, that kind of an interaction, if that can be enabled. So I would say enabling the leader to be more impactful is what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so you really got the question very rightly. And in fact, when you said this, I already get some ideas on, because we are coming up with a water festival, that why not we have a workshop on the know-how of mapping and storytelling, for that matter. How we can be more impactful in what we do by just knowing these little skills. We don't really call it leadership; we just call it like some skill set development. I'm aware that it cannot be done in 90 minutes or an hour, but at least that engagement starts and it can be followed up later on with the same group of people and so on. So wonderful. Let me just hear from Khushbu what she would like to uh, say.
Yeah, so one thing is, yes, I think we, Madhuri and Nirmala, would be very happy to share what we have learned. And even like Turbo started, although we cannot transfer all the skills in one go, but it will give a turbo start to anyone who is interested in the
Yeah.
group, and to tell their work and stories very effectively. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that is one thing. And uh, I would like to have like uh, for myself, if you would ask from all these wonderful women, what do you want to learn, Khushbu? I would like to come together, engage, not like only online, but a physical workshop where it fuels me for at least next few years to keep the hope going. So
Very
if
good.
they are doing
You
it,
are
I
ready.
can do
We
it.
are ready. Very
So
good. We
that
are readying a water festival. After today's session, you become our family member in the group of speakers, which is more than 350 people, by the way. And we are readying a physical water festival where we are going to do something very different than a regular conference. It is just to hold on to each other's hands and really tell each other that we have to just stick around and do what we are good at doing and be hopeful and just say all the best and keep doing and kabhi kabhi. So we are organizing that festival. I'm sure you are going to soon hear from our researchers about it and a formal invite for it, and we see how we take it up from there. Just get started with it, as you rightly said. So let me just ask you a question related to younger generation, and then I'm going to come to my last question after that. So the next question is penultimate, and it talks about uh, because you have been in water sector, Madhuri, for some time now, and you have deviated, and now you are seeing a convergence in your previous education and how it is so useful now. And here we have Khushbu, who is new into the sector, I must say, 5 years. Uh, so, what kind of message do you have for younger generation? Because we have been thinking to carry out a mass campaign on telling the merits of being in the water sector. So, and this is like one of the points which we are taking from every speaker, that what it is to be in the water sector and how can we ask or convey to more and more youth to be in the water sector, what it takes to be in water sector. So some message from you to them, and maybe we get more youth joining our sector. It's because you have to increase the number.
Yeah. So I would say, Dr. Mansi, that know your water. I think connect with water, like use jargon which they can
Yes.
connect with, but to talk about not to throw not to like discourage them, saying it's doomsday scenario, but to say that each one of you needs to know about your impact on the water systems. Actually, like, we have one infographic that we put out and we keep talking to the college students actually about it, which is the river systems of Bangalore,
Mm-hmm.
so the use and abuse of rivers. So as Kushbu
Mm-hmm.
was talking about earlier, right, we tap water from somewhere and then we dump back trash in at a downstream point into the same river, Kaveri, and we try to put out an infographic, and we constantly talk about this with the youth, because I feel that it has to happen very early. It can't be that okay, how lucrative is it and only then I'll get into the water sector, but to
Yes.
look at saying this, like, there are certain things that need to be done they need to question, they need to demand accountability from the government. There is so much money that's been spent on these things actually. So it's not that it is, that it's happening with very limited budgets, right? So it's about, I think, democracy in action. That's something that we need
Mhm.
to kind of impart, saying being part of the water sector means that actually, where you,
Mhm.
so I would say that it's about, we one of the things that we want to do is bring in modules where this become part of the class curriculum actually. We
Mhm.
just learned saying, oh, there's so many lovely rivers in India and we worship Ganga, we worship
And
this.
the water
And
cycle, and
leave
the
it
water
water
cycle.
cycle. But go beyond that and understand what ails our rivers, know about it and say, how do I demand this and how do I also ensure that, I don't contribute to this. So that
Mhm.
thing. So I would say with the youth, it has to start off early so that then they can make these choices. It can't be
Mhm.
that they've never been exposed to this, and then you say, hey, come into the water sector. They will not find it enticing, as Khushbu pointed out, because you can never beat the IT.
Mhm.
But also talk about how we can use technology even in the water sector and this thing. So that's why we talk about Paani.earth, saying that, we bring in blend of the both and you can
Mhm.
do things, but it's never going to be as lucrative as IT. So it is a tough sell for youth. But
Yes.
bring it in into the consciousness earlier is what I think.
Tough, but it is very contending. Maybe I would like to add here, you feel very satisfied being in the water sector. It may not give you millions
Yes.
of bank balance, but very, very satisfying. So maybe also I think we can because many parents and even teachers are unaware that there is an option to be professional in this sector. That itself has to be conveyed to many schools and colleges. Then comes like whether it is a lucrative or whether it is non-lucrative. I recall my experience at IIM Ahmedabad once when I asked students, master students, what is the amount of water in a in a glass, how much water they drink in a day. 90% of the students could not answer my question. This is basic, you know but people do know that they have 70% water in their body because that was learned. And that is yes, so from their basic to really coming to professionalism, and then this conversation is more about leadership. So we have a huge scope of work which is sitting there. There's a gap, so we do need a lot of professionals, and now it's up to them and their parenting and schooling. What is success for them and how do we define it? It's a tough job for people like us to go and tell that come to the water sector and join us. I can completely relate with you what you said, but we have to find more creative ways to bring more people in here. Khushbu?
Yeah, so like I think more and more the generation in urban households or in urban areas I'm talking about, because most of my friends are from here.
Hmm.
So when we ask the question where the water comes from in your house, it shouldn't be the answer the tap, right? A lot of kids
Yes.
saying where the water comes
Or
from
the
the
mountain.
tap or
They
the
make this
mountains.
mountain.
Yeah. So the river, how does it transport? How are we transporting from the river for Bangalore
Hmm.
city, or how
Hmm.
other places get their water from? How the water comes to your house? Starting
Hmm.
from that awareness, what is its impact, and more of the education. I think in the younger age will make them interested in water, and also because now there's a lot of talk about the carbon emissions and
Yes.
climate change and all the modeling which is happening with GCMs and 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is thrown into your face regularly. I think parents are becoming more aware, but mentioned by Madhuri, it's never going to be that lucrative as an IT BT thing, but it is very satisfying job. So it's up to the schooling system as well as parents to invite that consciousness into their kids. Uh, yeah.
Interesting. So very interesting. So I come to my last question. Thank you so much for being so patient. And uh, let me ask you in a little bit different way. And the question is again for the youth. Uh, one thing is that we would like more and more youth to join the sector. And like in my age group and generation before and immediate after, Khushbu, you come after that. I mean, if I look at 10 years or 5 years as a generation gap, if we are getting more and more people, if we wish to get, how do we really simultaneously convey how to engender water sector? Because if we continue what men have been doing in the water sector in terms of development and all, and if we have more of the professionals doing the same, we are going to create bigger problem. So it is also a responsibility on us to engender the sector and talk about ecofeminism, talk about getting more women in the sector, talk about getting more women leadership in the sector. What kind of message would you like to give? I mean, there are a lot of talks otherwise also, like after so many years now, the parliament is talking about, reservation for women, which is an ironic thing. And that also not for this election, but देखा जाएगा next election में. But something culturally, educationally, if we can imbibe some values where we can talk about engendering the water sector, but engendering society itself for that matter. What do you think? What kind of messages or activities or things we should be doing so that it becomes again a gender neutral sector and more women are, we have to reach somehow 2.5% per 5% of water sector somehow. So what will be your message about that to the society, to the younger generation specifically?
Yeah, I think women have a nurturing quality, right? Which uh, the way we look at nature is very we call it Mother Nature, right? That's why, and I think it's very important to make it a drawing room conversation. Actually,
Yes,
this thing about water, and that what needs to be done, and how can women actually be a part of that. So I feel the previous thing, that initiative that you're talking about, where how do we bring more youth into this sector, and this leadership combination, right? Everything
yes,
has to go hand in hand, where this generation has that responsibility to instill in
yes,
the younger generation. So I feel it has to be like a conversation when friends get together, because we have to make it a commonplace conversation. Actually, water is not talked about that much.
yes.
Only when you have a water shortage, or your taps run dry, or Chennai didn't get water,
Floods happen.
it's talked about, right? But pollution, the state of water bodies, what's happening to water is not a discussion that happens commonly. So it rests upon us, to be able to constantly communicate this thing. So I would say, it is about bringing it as a commonplace conversation to first inspire them to look at saying, yes, this can be done. And another thing is, how do we engage with the career counseling things of colleges, right? Of different colleges, where this is even offered as an opportunity, because I couldn't even imagine this when I was in my engineering college, that oh, as an
Same with
electrical
me.
engineer, you can actually contribute to the water
Work
sector.
on
You thought,
water.
oh, you need to be a civil engineer, because they thought water was an engineering problem, right, to solve. That is, I need to
Mm.
build more dams, or I need to build more canals. I mean, it was only thought about as an engineering thing. So I feel it is very important to bring in these awareness sessions, actually, where it's talked about very differently, saying that there is a lot of engineering that can be done here, which is not about how do we mitigate the damage that's already done. So
Yes, absolutely.
I think a lot of those conversations in colleges, in homes, has to become the commonplace. So I feel a lot of writers can come to the rescue, actually, where they start sharing stories about, like, in the Wiki Council, if there are writers, where they can be blogs put out, like very small ones that can easily get in, because social media is a platform that can get to
Yes.
many. So how do these stories actually get broadcasted at a larger thing? That's something that we should think about, because that's the only way we can get to the younger generation, actually.
Wonderful. Khushbu?
Yeah, so you asked about activity, different type of activities which can be done, and I think we can ask the younger generation, younger than me and older than me, to think of a marriage between their existing skill set and how they can apply it to the water sector as one part, and see what they come up with and how these stories can be then told. For example, you someone might already have a GIS skill set, and how do they apply it for water? So that's how entire Paani website is about. Some might already know about sensors and how they apply to water quality monitoring. So to think about various options from their existing skill set and then branch out into different sectors.
Interesting. I will pick a line from Madhuri and really see how our education system can really start nurturing the youth and the children to find a convergence between passion and professional options, because somehow our education is focused more on profession, not really allowing children and youth to explore their passion, because it's all about education for employment. If we are open about it, both in parenting and schooling and education, I think there will be more room for youth and children to explore their passion. Then we don't need to tell them that do this or that. I mean,
Yes.
they will see the current water crisis, they will see flooding, they will see all kinds of problems. So even the society and what is going around the society, they are observing very closely. It's that how much open, and you rightly mentioned how much conversation is happening, you know. And I feel very, I will say contented at this point when you mentioned about conversation, because what we are trying to do through Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is actually raise this conversation that water has to be discussed in a very layperson language. It's not only limited to engineers and high time scientists who are going to write big books and big articles, which we will be afraid of reading. It has to be everyday conversation like we do for all kinds of recreation. We do all kinds of lifestyle, so that has to come forward. So conversation becomes the key takeaway for me in this last question also. And activities rightly mentioned. You also mentioned about social media, which youth is very good at, and that is now the strongest tool of conversation for that matter. And then exploring, as Khushbu rightly mentioned. So that brings me to the end of the conversation. We have gone overboard the time, but it was just flowing like water, so I didn't feel like closing. But we have to close it at some point in time, and now is the time. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and it was as free flowing as I felt like that. Um, and I am learning with every conversation we are having in this platform of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we do look forward to having more of these conversations with other speakers. And may you both remain, and Pani remains inspiration to others and us at Wiki and me personally. We are grateful to have you here and also learn about your water endeavors. May you continue your water activities and keep us posted, which you will be also now become part of the family of speakers. We shall also continue with our regular Monday Munching with Women for Water every Monday at 5 p.m. IST, and look forward to learning from more women who are from the water sector. You may please follow our social media platform and for regular updates. And for now, thank you so much to both Madhuri and Khushbu, and thanks to my team to put this whole show up for us. And please take care, and we see each other soon next Monday. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.